What's going on, everybody? Ian here with the Seek First Adventure. Today we are continuing work on our Airstream renovation. We're working on our 1976 31-foot Sovereign, and I am excited because we are finally getting to the part where we lift the shell off the frame. This has been something that we've been talking about and that we've been planning and kind of figuring out exactly how we're going to do it for a while now. And so I wanted to show you what it is that we're going to be doing and what my plan is, how I'm going to go about it, the process, and then I'm going to actually be doing stuff. And today we're going to lift it and do the rest of the frame repair, and we're actually going to put it back down on it for a little bit while we finish up some other stuff. And it's kind of going to be a two-part lift. So we're going to do several different videos chronicling the whole thing. So in this first part, we're going to be kind of more focusing on like what I'm using to lift it and the frame and finishing up the frame and all that. And then we're going to do a few other videos on more of this whole process. So this isn't exactly the conventional method that most people use. A lot of what I've seen is people use the gantry lifts or some sort of overhead mounted lifting system. And I think that ultimately that's probably the best way to go about this. Some of the reasons why I didn't go that route is where the Airstream is in my driveway. On one side there's concrete, on the other side there's just grass. And so since it was going to be potentially elevated for a while and there could be rain, I didn't want the gantry to potentially settle and sink or any of that. Just the instability of my yard and my situation would potentially be, it could cause problems. Also, I didn't really want to have the shell elevated, and I wasn't planning on removing the frame from underneath it, just because I've already done most of the wire brushing and cleaning up the rust. I really just needed to replace some of the outriggers and fix a few spots, and so I didn't necessarily need to have it be separated for very long. And I'm going to be basically building all the underbelly in between the two lifts that I'm doing, and so it just this just kind of made a little more sense. Also, the gantries, the cost is, it's not a lot to necessarily build one, but between the two it's about the same. The only difference is that a lot of the money that I have is in these pole jacks, which is something that then I can turn around and sell, or it's something that I can use for something else. It's not kind of a one-purpose item. And the lumber is cheap. I think I have less than $50 in lumber. 2x4s are $250. So got 20 of those, and that's pretty much, and then some plywood. But so basically what I'm doing is I have these pole jacks. I got 4 of them, and they are 1,500 pound lift capable, so that's more than enough. And I'm building essentially a 2x4 truss work throughout the inside of the Airstream to be the structure that it actually lifts the shell. So that does two things. It creates stable lift points, and it additionally creates structure and stability within the shell to where there's no flexing, shifting, and everything stays in the right position when it's going up and down. This idea just seemed like the most logical for me. So for today, I'm going to finish out building the interior structure. I'm going to build another similar thing to this down here. I'm putting a main beam down the middle and then some additional cross beams between the ribs to kind of keep the center section stable, and then I'm going to attach those to the main beam. And the plan is today I'm going to lift it up, and over the weekend I'm going to replace outriggers. I'm going to be fixing those spots in the back, as well as just some other spots that I can't get to. And then once it's all welded, cleaned up, I'm going to paint the whole frame and get everything looking great. And then we're going to bring it back down and put bolts back through and just have them not fully tightened up, but tighten enough to where it's stable and still leaving the internal structure. And then I'm going to go to the additional things that I need to do before I can put the subfloor in. And you may be thinking, well, whenever you're going to do the subfloor, how's that going to work? Because the pole jacks are where the floor is going to go. So basically the plan is I'm going to bring it up, put the front and the rear and most of the midsection in, and then from there I'm going to essentially move the pole jacks to a different position and then put the one sections in the front and the back where the pole jacks were. I'm going to put those flooring sections in. It's like, again, it's a little bit more complicated, but you know, I just think this is the way to go for my situation. In the future, if I do this again, hopefully I'll have a warehouse building that I can work in, and I can just have overhead hoists and it'll be no big deal, and, and I'll sandblast the frame and I won't go through the same things that I did on this route. But you know, you kind of gotta do what you can with what you have in the situation you have, and so that's kind of why I'm like, there's never necessarily like the only option or the best option, but this is what is going to work great for my situation. So we're gonna get to it. We're gonna start building the framework in here, or continue building the framework in here, and then we're gonna lift this shell today. So all of the internal support structure is built. We got the jacks all in place. The next step is going to be to cut the remaining bolts holding the C-channel on the floor to the outriggers, and then once that is done, then everything will be disconnected and we're going to lift it. So I'm going to go take a quick break, get some lunch, and then we're going to come back and finish this thing. It's going to be epic. So all the internal bracing is finished up. I got all that built. So the last thing we need to do before we can lift the shell is just cut the remaining bolts off.
honestly.
There were 3 of us kids, and we each have projects.
Really?
So,
Okay. Let's go back down and set it back down on the front.
everyone else has
Do that.
in the book, yeah.
Alright, so we got it in the air, and the wind started blowing, and it was a little too wobbly for my liking. And so we went and got some 4x4 by 10 pieces of lumber that we're basically going to use as like angled just outboard supports. They're going to come out through the wheel wells and down to the ground and just support the shell once it's up in the air, just to make sure that it doesn't rock side to side. And then we're going to do a little bit of a similar thing in the front. So we're going to do our second take on that. We're going to bring it up again, and hopefully this time everything goes smoothly and it all is stable, because I would hate for this thing to fall over. That would really be problematic. Glad you guys came over.
Yeah, me too.
I would have seen a video posted, like an obituary or something on the news. A man crushed while filming his YouTube channel. We have the raw footage.
Oh my God.
Well, that was incredibly nerve-wracking, but epic at the same time. So we got it lifted the first time, and then we started to have some gusts of wind, and the shell was moving back and forth quite a bit, and the stands were doing this number, and so we had to hold on to everything to make sure the shell didn't come over. You know, maybe, potentially, who knows. In any case, so we quickly brought it back down, and then we had to figure out some sort of support system. Luckily, some friends came over. They were able to help with all this. Initially, I was gonna, try to do it alone or with Lauren's help, and sometimes you just gotta ask for help. And I'm really glad I did. And I'm really glad they came over. Super grateful, Mark and Jay. So, but it is now up. We ended up getting these 4x4 beams and basically just creating a cross inside that is supporting it laterally, and so it's now solid in there. It's not going anywhere. We rocked it, and it's very sturdy, so I'm now very confident being able to work on everything. So from here, I'm gonna do everything with the frame. I'm gonna replace the outriggers, going to finish wire brushing and cleaning it all up, and then paint it, and then from there I'll probably put it back down. I'm not 100% sure, since it's really sturdy. I'm not 100% sure. I may bring it down a little bit and just re-secure it. I'm gonna cross that bridge when I get to it, or we may just leave it up and build all the pans and underbelly and all that stuff. We will see. I'm not sure. So thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to subscribe if you want to continue seeing more of our content. We also have a website and our Instagram listed below. You can check those out, and leave a comment what you think. If we could improve on some way, if we do the second lift, let us know if you have any great ideas, because I'm kind of wading through unfamiliar water with all of this. So any and all help would be beneficial. So really appreciate it, and you guys have a great day.